The last question that we have for you, which relates to the last part of your answer to my second question. In the fourth chapter of Stigma, you talk about the Poverty Commission and the work of those who you call experience experts, and I love this concept. Can you talk about why you think we should be led by people with first-hand experience of poverty and other issues?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose one thing and it's already been running through what I've been saying, is that, you know, social change has to come from, you know, and challenging social problems has to come from people who are at the sort of, you know, the difficult end of experiencing and living with those problems. Social change isn't going to come from those in power, you know, who are unaffected by the social issues and problems. So in a way, it's, as you know, a more conventional way perhaps to talk about it is how you empower communities, or how do you distribute power differently. But the Poverty Commission, it's called Poverty Truth Movement, and it was sort of founded in the UK and Scotland, in Glasgow, and it was originally like a church movement, but now it's not. It's not associated just with people from religious communities. But it was basically how do you actually. People don't believe there's poverty in a country that's as wealthy as the UK. So how do you make poverty visible in a different way? And how do you make it visible? How do you get people who are experiencing or living with poverty, you know, who are deeply stigmatized a lot of the time, how do you get their voice heard and what they need heard and explained, rather than lots of experts in the welfare state or politicians, or, you know, stigmatizing depictions of poverty as somehow the individual is to blame for their poverty. You must be to blame for your poverty because you live in a very rich country. So that sort of narrative. So Poverty Truth is led by people who are living in poverty or have experience of living in poverty. They're what drive Poverty Truth. And how it works is that a commission is formed, and these commissions are people with power who come together and form relationships with the people with experience of poverty. And it's a very slow, very local process of forming relationships. And the motto of Poverty Truth is nothing about us without us is for us. And another way of thinking about it is what we call I see, you see, and then we see. So the process starts that I see from my perspective. Then I form a relationship with somebody, or several relationships with people who are living in poverty, and they see something from their perspective. And we literally would go and walk around the area together and say, what do you see? I see a homeless person. What does that mean? I see this. It's my friend Jane. And what do we see together? So the idea is to transform our perspectives through relational working with in the community. So it's very local and very bottoms up. Now, what you can't change sometimes, and what's harder to change, and this is why it's a movement rather than, you know, it takes a long time to change anything very high up. So it's very difficult for us to change welfare policy.
Of course.
We can encourage people to vote for different parties, but in a way that's very high level government. But what we can do is change the way people act and think at a local level. And even some spending at a local level, what local government might decide to spend its money on. And some of the people, you know, so it's very crucial to get people in power locally in the commissions. And a commission has a life of maybe 18 months, 2 years, and then it'll, like a wave, it'll go down, and then a second commission will come out of the first wave, but it has lots and lots of ripples. So it's very kind of slow, but it's quite an incredible when it works, it's quite an incredible way of change happening in a very local level. And it's very much about stigma, because it begins with lots of stigmatizing beliefs on different sides, and it's the undoing of that stigma as part of the process. So it's a sort of leveling process, but it's also a destigmatizing movement. So that's
highly impressive.
Yeah, but it's very humbling to be involved in something like that, you know, to be involved in those sorts of local community activisms is really very important for me as a person, and it makes the work that you're reading, that's at the heart of it, really. Is
and that really comes through in reading the book. It really comes through.